In this video, I'm going to introduce you to Anvil, a web application that allows you to build full stack web applications in the browser using Python. If you go to Anvil.works, you will find the landing page where we can actually get started, build seriously powerful web apps with all the flexibility of Python. No web development experience required. Anvil allows you to build your web applications, the front end, using drag and drop components that you can just pull from the component bar. You can also actually write the logic in Python. You code the entire application in Python, and then you can deploy right from Anvil. What we're going to build today is something I call Stickify. It's a web application that allows you to upload a picture of yourself with your laptop, and we can generate a new image that has your laptop covered in stickers. Okay, you can see that now the person looks like a cool developer. Okay, so a little background for this project is I saw a tweet recently and the person shared his laptop with stickers. I don't like having stickers on my laptop. If you don't like it, maybe there's somewhere where you can actually just, in case you want to have that experience but just want it to be just for that picture, you can use Stickify. Okay, now that we've seen what we want to actually build, let's get started. So go back to the home page, Anvil.works, and select start building. You can start from a template. You can check out other examples that the community has provided, or you can start a new app or clone from GitHub. For us, we're just going to create a new application to get started. So start from a blank app. Let's select a theme. I think the one I used for the demo was Rally. So we're going to click on Rally, and that will take us to the dashboard, the editor view. And this is the powerhouse for Anvil. A number of things you should note is if I click on Run here, we can actually start seeing the final product. So you can see we have the look. Down here, we can check out the version history. I wouldn't go into any of this majorly, but the version history down here, so you can actually start saving to GitHub. You can commit and take snapshots of your project as you build your stuff. Then you can run background tasks, and this is the app console. This is more like, just imagine that this is the browser, and this is like the console in the browser to actually monitor what your client-side code is doing. And there's also a server console where any function in the server, you can actually console log or monitor any of those functions right here. So the way Anvil works is you have a client side, which is more like your front end, and you can write client-side code. Monitor events, when you click a button, what happens. There's also the server side to Anvil where you can kind of write APIs or write functions or write whatever it is that your client-side code can actually call. That's just a little explainer, but we are going to see that in action very soon. Let's get back to the dashboard and stop the front end. So I'm going to click on stop, and we are back to our view. Remember when I said Anvil gives you a drag and drop experience? That's because the UI is completely dependent on you dragging whatever you need and putting it in the center screen. So the center panel is your view. Whatever you see here is what you're going to see in the completed application. The right-hand side is more like tabs to actually toggle between client code, the server code, and if you have assets, you can put them here. There's the data, which is more the database. You can create a new database. So you can, if you're building something that's to do with form or you want to collect a form of data, you can add a table. Settings allow you to do a number of stuff. Python versions, this is where you can add more packages if you need more package. We're going to just use things as we need them. I wanted to do like an overview of everything before we get started. So now that we have this ready and we can actually start building what our application is going to look like. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a label to the middle panel. And if you remember from our completed application, there was a big text right here. So with this label now, I need to actually add the text. And the way to do that in Anvil is you can collapse this. I need to add the text here. So I'm going to call it Stickify. Okay, now, so Stickify is the text. It's left aligned. I can center align it. There's this panel that pops up on whatever you're selecting, and you can use it to modify and change the look of or specific properties of whatever component that is currently selected. So right now I just made this bold. I can make it italic. I can give it underline if I want to, but bold is fine. And let me change the font size. So you can change the properties in the right sidebar as well. I'm just going to look for the one that has to do with font size. This is right here. I'm going to put this to 64. All right. So we now have a very big H1 text right there that screams Stickify. So the next thing to do is to allow my users to be able to upload stuff. So they need to be upload their images. To do that, we're going to go to the components again, and Anvil as a file loader component. I'm going to drop that right there. And I can also make this bigger, smaller, however I want to be. But I'm going to just leave it as it is so that we can move on faster. Now that we have this file loader component added, once a user click it, we want something to happen. And those are the events that Anvil gives you. You can actually customize the events of what happens when something else changes in Anvil. We're going to get more into that, but I want to drag another component to the screen so that we can actually tie them together. So the idea is once a user clicks on upload, we want to see the image that was uploaded. Let's add the image component. So the image component is going to be hidden until the user selects something, right? So what happens in Anvil is actually when you click on run, you wouldn't actually see it, except maybe you've added an image using the file. Okay, so now that we added our image to the screen, let's now connect the two together. So once the user click on upload, we are going to show the uploaded image right here. To do this, we're going to need to touch a little bit of code. So I'm going to go over to the code section, and this is the code that is the logic behind whatever you're seeing in the front end. So in Anvil, the way to do that is you select the code from these buttons right here, the top of the middle panel, and I'm going to select code again so you can see it. And this is the code that actually powers our front end. So listen to events, when something happens, what changes, and a bunch of stuff. So this is the code. However, to prevent us writing a bit of boilerplate again, you can easily just click on the events right here, and this is going to help you write a quick boilerplate code that is going to help speed up your work faster. Click on upload and I click on change events. You will see what happens now. It actually went into the client side code and added this quick template. This method is called when a new file is loaded into this file loader. So what we want to do is when you use this to upload a file, we want to show the image here. So to do that, we're going to, I have a little code here. I'm just going to copy that so I don't have to repeat myself over again. So when the file loader one changes, and I don't encourage you to touch any of the functions right here because it's something that is tied to that particular component. So what we're saying here is when the file loader changes, so when something happens with the file loader, which most likely will be you uploading an image, we want to give the file to the image source. Now you will see where are we seeing image underscore one and stuff. So if you don't know Python, this might be a little strange, but bear with me, it actually gets easier once you see them over and over again. This is actually image underscore one, and the way to tell is when I click on the image, you can see that it is image underscore one right here. So if I go back here and I see that it is image underscore one dot source. How did I know that it's dot source? A quick way to know is if I just delete that and try to type it again, there are helpers that shows you the functions and methods that are available to you to use. So you can just use that to find whatever you need. Of course, you can also check out the documentation. Click on help, it's going to take you to docs, and you can read more about what you need to do. So let's just move on and actually complete this project. So what we're doing right here is we're giving the file that was uploaded to the image source. Now I'm saying if there is a file, I want to hide a bunch of stuff. Now this part of the code is something that actually we might not see right now, but let me just take it out. Don't worry about them right now. It's not important because we don't have those components on screen yet. I'm going to try that now. Let's click on run. If this works, what should happen is once I upload an image, we should see the image right here. Boom. So what we did actually worked. Once you upload an image, we show that image on the screen, and all of that is done with this simple, just this one line of code, right? This is what powers this entire thing you see right now. So the next is actually to have a button that you can click that actually goes and generates the code. So we can just go right here. You know the process. I'm going to drag a button to the screen. I'm going to call the text. You know, the way it is there's a button. You see button 1. I'm going to see the text here. I'm going to call this generate. Okay, so we're going to say the call to action for this is get your sticky laptop. I don't know where that inspiration came from, but it sounds fun. Get your sticky laptop. So the idea is once you click on this, you start the generation process. But we don't want to show this button if there is no image selected. So if I go back here, you can see that this is going to show regardless. If I upload this, it would still be there, but I don't want this to show until there's an image selected. In the properties for the button, you would see the appearance section. There is a visible property right here. I can disable this and go manage the appearance and disappearance in code. So we're going to turn this off and go back to our code and say if there is a file, which means if it's selected, I want to, so I'm going to say button. So remember, the way to find the name of the component is you can select it and you can find it right here. I can even change this. I can call this generate image button. So I can change it right here if I want to. You can also find it right here. You can also click on this and change it. But I'll go back here and say, now I can say generate image button. And one thing I love about Anvil is the way it helps you complete your stuff. Once there is a file selected, we want to make the generate button visible. So I'm going to say dot visible equals to true. Okay, so this should work if there is a file selected, or if there's a file, if the file exists, or however this is, we want to show the button. So I'm just going to run that again. And now we should see the button is no longer available to see. But once I upload an image, we should see the button show up once again. And this is the front end UI for our project. Now we can go ahead to talk about once I click the button, once I click the get your sticky laptop, what actually happens and how does that work? Now, this is the part where we start dealing with calling functions, calling server functions, and how do those concepts work in Anvil. So in Anvil, what you can do is you can actually add a server module. A server module for Anvil is hosted in Anvil's cloud environment. It is the backend for your application. Well, so you can do intense business logic there, and you can do all of that right here on the platform. So we don't have a server module right now, and it's simple to add. All you need to do is click on add server module, and you get this wonderful, and you get the server module added. So I can toggle between client code and server code. You can rename this if you want to, but I'm just going to leave it as it is. So let me close these other tabs. Okay, now that we have a server module, what we want to do is once I click on this, we want to create a function right here that we can eat, and it's going to generate the stuff for us. Now we're going to use Nano Banana for the image generation. Nano Banana is an image model by Google, which is one of the craziest one right now that allows you to do image generations. You can either just generate an image from text, or you can give it an image and ask it to edit it for you. So what we're going to do is a combination of that. I have some images that are reference pictures for stickers, and we are going to use that to inspire our model to actually do that for other laptops. So how to actually use Nano Banana? I'm going to access Nano Banana's docs. Okay, so this is the Nano Banana documentation, and we can see the text to image generation right here. I don't want to text image, I actually want something close to this, text and image to image. So I will give it a specific prompt, but I also want to add some reference images to it, and we can use that for our generation. So this is how you do that in the example Python, in the example that Nano Banana is giving us. So I'm going to just do a number of, so we want us to import Google GenAI from GenAI and a number of stuff. We've seen the example. Now we can start building our own project with that as a reference. So we need to install the Google Generative AI dependency. To do that, go to your settings, go to Python versions, and you can start adding packages. So if you see the example, we needed something, we need to install the generative AI package and this package called Pillow. It's PIL rare, but the actual package is Pillow, which is going to allow us to work with images. So I'm going to install both of them right now. So back to package here, I'm going to search for Google Gen AI. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to click on add. If you don't specify a version, it's going to use the latest one. Then I'm also going to search for Pillow because it's very important that we have that to work with images. I'm going to click on add, and that's going to install both of them. We don't have to install IO because that ships with Python natively, and that is going to work out of the box. Now that we've installed both of them, we should actually see a status of built. If I try to install something, maybe IO for example, and I click on add, it might get stuck in building or eventually maybe even fail. We don't want this to fail. If it fails right here, you should actually try to fix it because it's not going to work. So we need to just delete whatever package and make sure that this is built before we continue. So now that we have this working, now that we have this packages installed, the next thing is to start writing our code. Now let's step back a bit and look at our flow. Once the user clicks on this button, we want to call a function on our backend that takes the images from here and generates the stuff and send it back to us. So on our backend, we can actually write a function that does the generation, and they actually have its written right. So I'm going to start with the function. All right, so in our backend, let's define a new function called gen image with Nano Banana, which is going to take in our image file. And this is going to come from the front end, so we don't have to worry about that. And now that we want to start writing our code, next is also let's instantiate our client using the Gen AI package, and you would see that we are already using the package from Google. So right now is the best time to import whatever we need. So I'm going to import Gen AI from Google. So from Google, import Gen AI, which should fix the squiggly line res. So I'm instantiating the generative AI package I'm calling it client for my use, and it's going to take in the API key. API keys are sensitive data. They should not be exposed. So Anvil has a very interesting way to handle that. We can just do anvil.secrets.getSecret, and we can fetch the secret that we've defined in our project. Right now, I haven't defined it. So actually, let's do that right now. I'm going to click on plus and select app secrets. So we're going to store secrets that aren't visible in your source code. We don't want to have that visible in our source code because it's very important. And we already have examples of how to use it right here. So you can actually do, just copy this and paste. And I'm going to create a new secret, give it the name that I actually have in my code, and set it to a value. Now, this is a sensitive information, so I'm not going to show you on screen. I'm going to hide that part. I'm going to blur it out so you don't see it. I would encourage you not to actually leak this or show it to anybody. It's very private. So how do I get the API key for Gemini? Open a new tab and go to ai.dev. That is going to show you the Google dashboard for AI stuff. And you can select get API key from here, and you can do that. I'm not going to show that because I don't want you guys to see what that is. So now that we've done that, the next thing to do now is to keep writing our code, because now we have everything instantiated. Let's continue writing our code. I'm going to import more stuff that we actually need. And if you want to spend more time doing some research, you can keep that up. But Pillow allows us to handle images, manipulation and stuff. I'm also importing Bytes.io to do some image data conversions. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to paste a bunch of code so that we don't waste more time on this part. I'm going to walk through them so that we can understand. So, all right, so let's walk through what is going on right now. So I have a bunch of stuff that I just pasted, and we're going to look through them and walk through, understand what is going on. So remember I told about the reference images. This is how I fetch them. The reference images do not belong to me. They are hosted somewhere else. So I added a URL here, and I'm making a request to get it, and I'm passing that in to this variable right here so I can use. image.open byte irs. This is the way I'm converting it so I can actually use it for Google, because Google Gemini has a special way they receive data and you want to send that to them. So I'm creating a variable to also handle my prompt. And this is the prompt text that we're going to use. Also, you might notice this anvil.server.callable. We need to add this decorator on top any function on our server module that we want the client code to be able to call. If we don't add this, there's nothing we want to do on the front end. We will not be able to call this function. Okay, now that is that. The next thing is to do is, so let's look at the function itself. It's receiving the image file. Remember how we instantiated this. Next is actually converting the media from the front end to the format that Gemini expects. So we're using, this part is coming from this new import I made from google.genai.types import part, and that we're using that to convert it to a format that Google Gemini can actually use. And then this is the function that does the call. It takes in the prompt text, it takes in the sticker reference, which is what we have here, the images of the sticker stuff, and then it takes in the image data. If you want to see one of these URL looks like this, let me just show you what they look like so we can actually have some reference. So this is what it looks like. So I have some images of stickers that it's going to use to get idea of what they look like, and it's going to use that to actually generate the stuff on the laptop. So now that we've seen that, one other thing I wanted to mention is I noticed that Gemini is actually very strict on content policies, and that might be very restrictive in terms of what I'm doing doesn't really harm anybody. I was restricted a lot when I was testing, so I needed to find a way to bypass that. I wanted to include this in the video so that you can actually see that you can actually set the safety settings for your API calls. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting some very interesting categories. If you can look to the docs to see whatever category you want to use, but I just went ahead and set everything to block none, right? The threshold is block none, so like allow everything. You might want to be specific if you're building a production app because you don't want malicious people to do crazy things. But I don't think for stickers, please let me just get ahead and do what I needed to do. So you can just copy this. I'm probably going to have this code in a Google GitHub gist so that you guys can access it. So once I did that, I'm also printing the response. This is just for debugging, but I'm leaving it so that you can actually see the response with me as well. Next, we're going to pass through the response, and we are going to do some conversions as well. Convert the generated image data to the pillow image first, and we're going to do a bunch of stuff right here with that as well. And next is to return the image that was generated to the front end, right? So return the Anvil media object. This is what our front end can actually use to display. So that is the backend code. I'm going to add more comments to this so that you can actually have more context on what's going on with this code. All right, so now that we've done that, let's tie our server functions to the front end, such as when you click this button, you would actually start generating the image, and we can see that. Select the button right here and select on click event, which is going to tie to when the button is clicked, when the generate image button is clicked, right? This method is called when the button is clicked. So we're going to write the other code here. So all right, so I just pasted the code that does exactly what we want to do, which is when we click the generate image button on click, we want to do a number of stuff. So the first thing is we want to get the current source image from the image one component. So what image was uploaded, we're going to put that in this variable. Next thing is we want to show a loading indicator when the server function is running. So this is the way to do that in Anvil, anvil.server.loading_indicator, and we are using it on this because we want it to be shown on this image one component. So whatever you need to actually show that on or target with the loading indicator, you can put that in this. You can edit this and put this here. Next is to call a server function that we've written in our server module and pass in the input image. And that's what we did here. So remember we said you need to add if I go back here, if you don't add this decorator, Anvil.server.callable, you would not be able to call this server in your front end. So we need to do that. So we're saying server.call, and we're passing in the function we want to call, the name of the function, the definition for the function, but we're also passing in the file input. So we're going to do that, and that will go ahead to make an async call to the server, and it's all managed by Anvil. We don't need to worry about that. And once we get a response back, it's going to come back in this media underscore object. Remember that that's what we're sending back. We're sending back a Anvil media object right here. So once that is done, is once we get the response back, if it's actually a media object, if the server returns a valid media object, we want to set the generated image.visible to true. In fact, we don't need this. Okay, so once the response is returned, what we want to do is we want to set the image. We want to replace the image source with the media object. So remember, the image one is this. It's the source. It's from the uploaded image. But now we want to set the generated image to that. So where's that again? So we're going to set that to the media object, and then we want to hide the generate button so that the user doesn't generate more than one. Else, if none of this is true, we want to print a fail to generate image in the console. So you can also see it here. All right, and that's everything we are doing with the button click function. Let's go back to our UI and actually test this out right now. So I'm going to click on run, and I'm going to upload an image. Click on open, and that is going to show the image, but also show the button. If I click on this right now, it should actually make a call and show the loading indicator. So let's do that. I'm going to open my console. I think we have an error in our console. You can see this big red sign. Let's click it. No method generates image button on a click in form 1. Self.generate image.button. So let's see what that is. So if I click on this, generate underscore image underscore button. If I open this, oh, it's not actually saying the stuff for some reason. Let me see. Why is this happening? Oh, yeah. So indentation is very important. I need to indent this properly. I'm going to copy this and indent this well. So that's all we need to do. Indentation was super important. I'm going to click on run once again, and that should fix that issue. So I'm going to upload once again. And if everything works, we should actually see that that is gone. And now let's click on this, and now you see that spinning loader. And because we targeted it on the image one component, that is why it's actually showing on that image one component. If yours is targeted here, it's going to show on that. So we're going to wait a bit for it to actually go ahead and complete that. And if everything works, we should actually get back our image right here. Okay, so it went ahead and did just that. We can see that it's working, but a couple things we might need to change is maybe we should make this bigger, and we should probably add this button once the user has done the image generation so that the user doesn't click this stuff one more time. Okay, so it has done that. It has generated the image with the stickers. Let's fix some things and improve some stuff. The first thing that comes to mind is we want to hide this button once the image is generated so that you don't click more than once. Then also, we also want to probably make this bigger so it's cleaner and better to see. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to click on the image. I'm going to look for the properties that control the size. I'm going to click right here. Oh, display mode. I'm going to set that to fill width. So with that, we should have something that actually fills the width of the screen. Not really a good idea most times, but I prefer that right now for my use case. I also want to hide this button once the image is generated, and we need to do that with code. So I'm going to go back to code, and we're going to do I'm going to copy the name for the button. I actually have this line of code before, but it was actually targeting the wrong thing that did not exist. So I'm going to fix that by saying generate image button and make that false, the visibility false, so that it doesn't show up, So once that is done, we can actually go test this out one more time. And if I upload my stuff again, now we have a bigger image, and then we can click on get your sticky laptop, and that's going to spin. It has generated the image and hidden the button. So if I scroll up, you see the button is gone. And if I reselect another one, you see that's also something we probably need to work on. Once I make a new selection, okay, it's back. All right, so once I make a new selection, it actually shows the stuff again, and everything is working well. That concludes our project. We went ahead to build an AI-powered application that adds stickers on your images. I'm happy you saw this, and I'm rooting for you. See you in the next one.